the accountability perspective. A lot of times we're focused on blaming things that are not in our control, like blame the government, blame boomers, but it's like, let's focus on the. So that's one thing I don't like about personal finance. It's like, or about this space, is people focus on the problems being the wrong things, and it's like, let's focus on what we do have control over.
Yeah.
So I don't have control over the cost of tuition. I don't have control over where student loans are going to be forgiven or not. What I do have control over is, okay, where am I going to go apply for a job that's going to help my tuition? Or, oh, I'm going to have a kid. Well, let me start a 529 plan now.
Yep.
So they don't have to be a victim of student loan debt 20 years down the line. That's what I would say, Anthony. I mean, there's a lot to say about about that.
Of course.
But I don't mean to be the bad guy when I say all this. I think that's the toughest part, is making people look in the mirror and realize we have control over certain things.
Welcome, everybody, back to another exciting show, the About That Water podcast, where we help you build strong financial habits. I am your host, Anthony Weaver, and I have the awesome opportunity to bring on a guy that's it's like amazing, because he's actually taking things to a whole nother level and actually providing you with insight in personal finances with only less than 10 minutes a show, which is amazing. And it's so much content. You definitely got to check it out. I think you would like number 40 on the West Coast or something like that, in the US.
Number 26 now.
26. Wow. That is awesome, dude. So, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show today, Hugo. Definitely got to check out this podcast, Stay Winning Podcast. Amazing show.
Hey, good morning, Anthony. Happy to be here. I'm glad we're finally doing this after so many ideas being thrown around, but thank you for the recognition. And, you pushed me to put more hard work out, because you're just putting out content back and forth like you're doing this full time. And I'm like, all right, Anthony, put a video up. I got to go put a video up too. So, right. It's very hard to stay consistent with everything else going on. Mm-hmm. So thank you for inspiring me to stay consistent.
Hey, you're most welcome. And this stuff is tough. I've been doing this for about 3 years now, just from the podcasting realm, and having over 100 guests coming on the show. All this stuff is exciting to me. And one of the things I like about what you're doing is actually shedding more light into the financial realm and having that extra voice that is out there. So what really got you into, the finances in the first place?
What got me into finances was necessity and pain. And I figured early on, if I just had more money, I wouldn't have the need for things. I wouldn't have such pain. So particularly, like, if there was an event I can go back to. My dog got sick when I was 15 years old. I come from a single parent family home, so my dog was my best friend. I had him since second grade, so we're like 10, 11 years in the friendship. He got sick, and my paycheck back then was probably $280, something like that. And it was $700 just to start treatment. And he wasn't guaranteed to make it. Yeah. So the second best option, or my only other option at that point, was to put him to sleep for like about 180. So it was like about 80% of my paycheck. So I had to say goodbye, and that was very painful. And that was literally a moment I'm like, okay, I've been working for a month now. I know what it's like to get a paycheck, and there has to be more to this. Like, I can't work hard and see that paycheck at the end, not be able to work for me or do things or give me more control over things. And I think if there was a particular moment, that would be a huge moment, I think, that got me into a personal finance direction, as far as learning more about it, as far as how can I get more money to not be in this position again and not feel this way again.
Yeah. Man, that's tough. I mean, to look at the cost value of, like, life or death at that point, that's early on.
Yeah, for sure.
So, in the personal finance space, we always hear about, we all don't have enough. What are your thoughts on that?
We all don't have enough. Man, that comes from a place of consumerism mostly. Even I have a number where it's not a number, but it's more like of a lifestyle. So if you start thinking of enough as like a way of life versus a number, then you can get to what enough is. So, for example, if I have enough cash flow from rental properties to cover all my bills and my play money, that's enough. I don't think you could argue that it's not enough.
Right. You're in the green.
Right? So, if my rental property cash flows and pays my primary property, and the other rental property pays my Lambo, and the other rental property pays my vacation, like that's enough. You know, that one rental property pays the food, the other rental property pays my kids' tuition, you know, metaphorically, ideally, right? That would be enough, but that's a lifestyle, right? There's no particular number. So when people focus on the number, it's very easy to hear it's not enough. And it's true, right?
Yeah.
Because you're in DC, you said?
Yeah, I'm like right outside DC.
Yeah, so that's an expensive area. I think Virginia has like a couple counties alone that are like in the top 10 most expensive.
Yep.
You know, make the list out here with Orange County. So that number is going to vary across the country compared like if you're in Arkansas or even West Virginia, right? So if people focus more on enough being a way of life than a number, I think we would start hearing more about we do have enough.
So what do you don't like about what's going on, like in the financial space? Because I know a lot of people are waking up to it.
Yeah.
And I feel as though it's becoming almost like deafening to the ears of hearing the same thing far as, you know, you got to save less. You need save more, or some people just say like savings is stupid. You should just go ahead on and invest it all. You know, why drink this cup of coffee when you could actually invest it? Like, where are the limits? Where the line drawn at? You know what I'm saying?
Oh man, we hear that coffee one a lot. I think like every other day I see something about buy the coffee, don't buy the coffee, right? And at the end of the day, personal finance is personal. What I do want to say that I don't like about personal finance or about the space is, or at least my favorite thing about the space when I talk about money with people is, and I don't do this directly, but the shoe fits. And by that I mean, see, a lot of people go be like, oh, make mistakes and go learn, right?
Mm-hmm.
But money is such a big part of our lives that we can learn from the money mistakes of other people, right? So I'm not going to go ahead and get a timeshare and be like, oh, I made a mistake. Like, now I can't get rid of it. Now there's a monthly payment that's impacting my debt to income ratio to own property. No, I'm going to learn that someone else had a timeshare and they shot themselves in the foot from owning property because that monthly payment is impacting them. So I would say my least favorite part about the personal finance space is when I talk about it, sometimes the shoe fits. It's making people look in the mirror and realize where they messed up. But it's almost like a necessity to go there, because if you're going to grow and change and be better, you have to know that starting point and what to correct, what to tune up. So I would say that's my least favorite part about personal finance, at least for me, where it's I have to make people face the mirror and look at that.
Mm-hmm.
So that timeshare thing is one example. And then what I'm seeing across the board more on social media is the lack of accountability. And I think that has to do a lot with the younger generation as well. So as a millennial, I understand we're the generation with the most student loan debt, right? And all these clips that go viral are just people complaining about either boomers messed it up or, you know, blaming corporate greed, etc. But the other least favorite part is there's no accountability, meaning we make decisions. Those decisions have consequences. Some of those consequences are good, and some of those consequences are bad. So getting into student loan debt, at the end of the day, like, it's a choice, right? And that's the knowledge I'm trying to spread. Hey, you want to go to that fancy school? Okay, maybe I recommend a state school. Maybe I recommend a school that you can drive from when you live with your parents and save on housing expenses. Okay, cool. You want to go to that school? All right. Then let's get you into an employment that pays for your tuition, or at least helps cover part of the tuition. And this is all a choice, right? It's all a decision. Like, we decide, you could apply to 10 schools. At the end of the day, you're going to decide which one you're going to go to. Are you going to commute there, or are you going to live there? and how are you going to pay for that? And that's from the millennial perspective. But then we have the parents' perspective, and again, it goes back to, okay, well, did you open up a 529 plan when they were born? Like that was something that's something that's in our control. And sometimes I sound like the bad guy, but I'm like, okay, I don't like. First of all, if I start like a discussion like this, right? Mm-hmm. I'd like to start with the starting point of something we can all agree on.
Yeah.
So what's the one thing we can all agree on? We want the best for our kids, right? Can like, yeah, there's going to be like 0.1% that's going to disagree.
Yeah, shoot for 80. We shoot for 80% on this
show. So a majority of people can agree we want the best for our kids. And my message with Stay Winning Podcast is, well, we have the power and the ability to set up this nest and what kind of world we bring them into. So if I'm gonna have money for $30,000 medical bill, I'm guessing that's around what it is. I'm not really sure. To give birth to someone, it's like, we can also put $5,000 in the CD, $5,000 in a 529 plan, contribute $25 a paycheck for the next 20 years, and by the time they're 21, you're like, hey, here's $500,000. You got your school, you got your house down payment. Like, I set you up. Like, so the accountability perspective, a lot of times we're focused on blaming things that are not in our control, like blame the government, blame boomers, but it's like, let's focus on so that's one thing I don't like about personal finance. It's like, or about this space, is people focus on the problems being the wrong things. And it's like, let's focus on what we do have control over.
Yeah.
So I don't have control over the cost of tuition. I don't have control over where student loans are going to be forgiven or not. What I do have control over is, okay, where am I going to go apply for a job that's going to help my tuition? Or, oh, I'm going to have a kid. Well, let me start a 529 plan now.
Yep.
So they don't have to be a victim of student loan debt 20 years down the line. That's what I was saying, Anthony. I mean, there's a lot to say about that.
Of course.
But I don't mean to be the bad guy when I say all this. I think that's the toughest part, is making people look in the mirror and realize we have control over certain things that no one thought about that we have control over before.
Yeah. And I think I started this show as talking about controlling the controllables. And that's one of the things that I think we all forget, that, anybody that's over 30 at this point, there's pretty much no excuse to not pick up the phone. If you could pick up the phone and look at a reel on Instagram, or to even look at a tweet on X, or do any of the things that you looking online for, you can look on it more than just entertainment. You can get some education. Like most of us, with you and I as just as examples, like we constantly putting out some type of information that can either cause you to think, cause you to take action, and actually cause you to have, impact into either your life and also your family's life. And I think that's one of the things that we tend to miss, I think, is how do we actually spread the word further? I just think we're not spreading the word further enough. Because, I know we like to blame. At first, when I started this thing, I actually blamed my mom. I was like, why didn't you tell me about this stuff? She was like, well, I knew about it. But she just wasn't comfortable sharing it and actually taking action on it. So, and I had that not really a heart-to-heart conversation. It was just a conversation in passing, especially about credit cards. So like now, different topics, I'll ask her like, hey, did you know about this? She was like, oh yeah. Like, you could have had me set up like a long time ago, but she just never did it. So I don't blame her. But it's just kind of one of those of like, you don't know what people really know. And all you know is that's what they did. And that's very impactful for like later on in life. So crazy.
Oh man, that reminds me of a tweet or a post on X that you mentioned, and Tiffany was engaged with it. Mm-hmm. So, like, why your community was like the last one to find out about something. And sometimes you guys say some things and I'm like, hey, that applies to like my community too. A lot of these first gen people like start like coming towards me and they're like, oh yeah, I totally get it. I'm like, I know, like only we have these problems, right? But that credit card thing, that's huge. Yes, add your kid. If you're listening and watching this, people, please add your kid to one of your credit cards. Don't give them a credit card.
That's one.
Just one. be responsible with it, and by the time they're 18, they can have a 700 credit score and just not have to worry about shopping around for a good rate. You know, they'll get the mailers. People will be knocking on their doors. They'll be getting the calls. The banks will be calling them. You know what I mean? Yeah. Versus if you put them in student loan debt, you know, the banks are calling them to collect versus calling them to give them money. So yeah, that credit card one is huge, and it reminded me of that post with you and Tiffany, and I was like, yeah, me and Anthony should talk. There's so many things where I could be like you said, you're the last ones to find out, and it's funny because you're like, my mom knew, right?
Yeah.
You're like, well, but in my case, or like, you know, my culture is like, well, as Christian, it's like, well, my mom didn't know.
But it's the actions that tell it all. It's like both of our moms didn't do anything with it. Like, well, you didn't know. So.
There you go. So the consequence is the same, and it's like, let's change this. Let's change this narrative. Like, and teach your kids. You know?
Right. Now that you know, yeah, go ahead on it. Oh man. But this is a conversation I think that needs to happen around the even the dinner table, just at meetings and stuff like that. Like, so hey, what are you doing with your kids? Like, how are you setting them up financially? You know, nothing, no shade or judgment. It's just kind of like, hey, you know, what strategies are you using for your family? Because like you mentioned earlier, personal finance is personal. And I totally agree with that. I'm not going to downplay that one because, and if you like to go to Starbucks every day, go to Starbucks. But if you walk in, hey, that's your choice. See what I'm saying? So, but you could be also investing in it. You know what I'm saying? The stock market is looking nice too. So,
yeah, you could be investing in Starbucks if you're going to consume Starbucks. And now there's so many fintech apps where if you swipe your card, it rounds up the nearest dollar and puts the difference into a stock of your choice. So it could be Starbucks. So there's that. Let's see. There's something else you mentioned right now that I wanted to bring up, but maybe I'll recall.
Okay.
A little bit later down the line.
Yeah, because I know you do a little bit with crypto. That's kind of the new, not new, I would say new-ish exciting spaces, because I've known about it, let's say in 2012 when people were actually mining, because I was at the help desk and a couple of guys was actually buying machines and mining it, and I was like, well, that sounds fun. I'm not buying it right now. I got other things to deal with, because I was dealing with schooling. I was getting my master's degree and you know, getting some certifications for you know, just so I can elevate myself in schooling. And they was like, oh yeah, well, I'm on like 3 of them yesterday. I was like, okay, that's nice. Like, somebody else got 12. Yeah, these are Bitcoins. Wow. Yeah. When it was brand new, early on, we could just use I think there was a Raspberry Pi was out, so you can just use like maybe 2 Raspberry Pi to mine. Yeah. And now people gotta use whole like warehouses now. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's only gonna get more difficult now with the halving coming up.
So talk about your adventure inside crypto.
Unfortunately, I didn't hear about it that early. Maybe this is where I can say, why are we the last ones to find out? And I'm always like, is this a culture thing? Is this a poverty thing? A first thing? Like, you know what I mean?
I heard it in passing. I was like, because, you know, a couple of white guys were talking about it. I was like, oh, sounds nice.
You know, I mean, I don't think I even know the computer in 2012.
You're probably a little younger than I am. So.
I'm 35. What about you?
Oh, okay. Yeah, we're about to say 39.
Okay, cool. Oh, yeah. So you're a millennial too, then?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the thing. I mean, I don't even think I had like my own personal computer to like go adventure out. Like, even like to keep up with crypto now, you still have to be online like all the time. That space is changing so fast. The market is 24 hours, right? So look, if you wake up to do day trading with the stock market, you know, it's only like 4 or 5 hours a day that's open.
Right.
But crypto, it's 24/7. By the time we're done with this conversation, there's probably a new coin that just got released that we missed the opportunity to jump on.
Yep.
And chase the pump and, you know, pull out before the mainstream finds out about it. So I believe I got into crypto around 2015 or 2016.
Okay.
And I thought I was already priced out of Bitcoin, and that prevented me from buying it. I was like, oh, it's like, I think it was like $4 or $6 grand at that point. I'm like,
Yeah, it was early.
Oh man,
Four, six, right?
$40. I'm like, $40. I can't. It's not gonna do anything. Little did I know, no, right? But
Yeah.
I did get into Ethereum when it was about
Okay.
like about $130.
That had to be at least what, 2019, 2018?
Yeah, 2017, 2018 vibes around that time. And I was telling people, hey, look at Ethereum. Like, if you miss Bitcoin, I mean, every year someone says you miss Bitcoin,
Yeah.
but at that
Right.
moment I was like, good, some Ethereum, and I had a nice bag of Ethereum. But unfortunately, I lost my job, and I had to, like, that was my emergency funds. Like, I'm like, okay, I'd rather pay my mortgage,
Yeah.
and that's where I cashed out. So luckily, because of the Ethereum pump, I was able to not go into foreclosure and everything. But I think 2017, 2018 is when I really started getting into it and downloaded the apps and doing the research and going, okay, I like this. I think it's cool. And then 2020, that's when like the whole NFT rush thing was going on.
Yeah.
And that's when I got into that and did more research on blockchains. And like, it wasn't just an investment in a coin anymore. And it wasn't just NFTs anymore. I think by the end of 2020, early 2021, it was more about Web3 and blockchain for me and the actual technology and how it can revolutionize what we call the Web2 world. And that's when I found Cardano and I go, okay, this blockchain makes sense. Like, it's decentralized. Now it's more than just meme coins and the mainstream coins. Now it's like about the actual blockchain technology. And I go, okay, well, if this is competing against fiat, let's go with something that's decentralized. That's where I came across Cardano, probably like around 2020, 2021, and saw that technology, how no one knows the keys, how it's never shut down, how it's cheaper to transact, faster to transact than what was considered the big boy at that time, which was Ethereum. So yeah, it's been at least a good 6-7 years now, maybe, since I've been into crypto, and most of my stuff is within the Cardano ecosystem. And in my platform, I try to implement how crypto can change people's lives. I mean, it really levels up the playing field.
Yeah.
That blockchain technology allows anyone to build anything, market it, provide a service. I mean, these people are bringing banking to third world countries where there's no internet connection. They're bringing internet connection to where there isn't. They're bringing cell phone connection to where there's no towers. Just regular people all through blockchain technology. So it definitely cuts out a lot of the politics they have to go through with permits and big corps. And we're still very, very early, and that's the exciting part of it. To me right now, crypto is the way Starbucks, Amazon, and Apple were in 1991. That's how early we are in crypto. So if Gen X was able to take advantage of that, congrats to you guys, Gen X, for being in your prime adult years when that was happening. But for anyone listening, that's how early we are in the crypto space. I'm excited where it's heading. Wow. What kind of bags do you hold, Anthony?
For me, I've been looking at crypto, researching it. I have yet to actually take the plunge. Okay. So that's because I'm looking at, do I try to do it fully anonymously? In order for me to do it fully anonymously, I'll have to create like a fake name, get like one of those cards, the gift cards from like the grocery store, pay in cash, get a cold card, like a cold wallet. Yeah. Once I get the cold wallet, buy a whole nother laptop, hook that up, get a VPN, and then do it all of that. And I was thinking like the minimum cost to do just on a hardware piece will be about $300. And then I can use the money as whatever to transact whatever I need at that point. Just keep running back to the grocery store.
Okay.
But the other option I was thinking about is like, whatever, just put my name out there and just get my own coins. As long as I got the money, it doesn't matter. So that's one of the reasons why I've been going back and forth with it.
So you're talking about the KYC process on the exchanges.
Yeah.
Like if you go to Coinbase, it asks you your name, your address, and all that stuff, right? This is where Web3 kicks in. You could download a mobile wallet right now on your phone without your name, without any questions asked. You'd be like, Hugo, I'm gonna sell you $20, and I will sell you $20 in return of your coin of choice, and no one has to know.
Okay.
And then if you want to buy my merch, like my hat, yeah, I'll take that crypto as a form of payment, and I'll mail it to you. You know,
Nice.
so it's going back like when people were exchanging shells and salt. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
You
Like,
said shells of salt. Yeah.
so yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up because a lot of people are probably in that same position, right? And how down the line it could be integrated with CBDCs and things like that. So one thing I do like about crypto is that it could be anonymous. It's just going to the right network. So Cardano is working on a sidechain named Midnight, where it's going to be completely anonymous. And as the world goes more digital and more online, I mean, you're doing everything online now. People are going on dates online now. You know what I mean? Like, people are going to Disneyland. They're going to like online metaverse Disneyland or whatever, right?
Wow.
So the more we head that way, privacy is definitely going to be a privilege.
Yeah.
But if you get in right now at the right ones, like Midnight, it can be completely anonymous. So you can still get a crypto bag without going through the exchanges. So I have videos on that, and I'm more than happy to help you out. And for anyone else listening that's in this situation, there's ways where you can invest in crypto without having your information out there. And if you want, you can even nickname your wallets, you know, something random.
Yeah, that'll be something I'll probably want to look into. Just, you know, just see how it is. Like, if we're going to do cash. Like, you know, I don't need to know that you receive cash, like, but the government wants to know. Tax
Exactly. So that's what I mean by we're early, right? There's still, at least the U.S. is behind compared to other countries in regulation, right? I mean, you have El Salvador. I mean, you see what they're doing with Bitcoin City and how they're implementing it now in their curriculum at school and the tax benefits in Portugal. So I think you know my friend Masterpiece Finance, or at least of him. So we're collaborating on a video, and we were splitting the check. I think it was, what was that? Ruby's? Yeah, that was a restaurant. Not that that's important. Right? We were at some restaurant, and you know, I pay the bill, and then he asked me the same question, like, "Oh, you know, anonymous and stuff." I was like, "Look, you could download this wallet right now, and instead of giving me the money for, you know, for this bill, like, let's just put it back. I'm gonna send it to you in this coin." So he was so surprised how easy it was. So now when he splits the bill with his friends, he just says, "Hey, just send me in crypto." Half of them have it, half of them don't. That's how early we still are. But yeah, it is that simple, my friend. So for anyone listening, you know, feel free to reach out, and the app that I invested in is called Exodus. So I was an early investor in that, and they're a digital wallet that's completely anonymous for you to hold your crypto. Yeah.
Okay. So if we do a digital wallet, because I like the cold wallets mostly because I can have something physical. That's me. I like to take it off the internet if I need to and put it back as when I'm ready to use it. So which one do you recommend? And
this is not a shill, but yeah, I do like Trezor. Trezor has partnered up with Exodus. I was never a fan of Ledger, and I'm glad I called that one right. You've seen everything with Ledger.
Yeah, seen Ledger, yeah.
But Trezor, their whole data is open source, so everyone's out there and be like, "Hey, try to hack us." So Trezor is easily integrated with Exodus. So if you want to use Exodus, for example, to get the crypto first, like I'll just send it to your Exodus wallet after you sell me, for example. So like I'll be the bank for you, right?
Yeah.
And then from Exodus, you can put it to your Trezor, and now it's offline. And you hide it somewhere, and hide it somewhere real good. Exactly. Don't lose on a boating trip, and you know, if you're really investing for the long term, that's a good strategy because you can forget about it. And 10 years from now, you're like, wait, I have $500,000 somewhere. Where is that?
Yeah, because I think it was that one guy early on, he had Bitcoin. He had at least a couple thousand Bitcoin or whatever, and it went up to like 30,000 at one point. And then during that time frame, he was like, he lost it on a boating trip. I was like, it made the news. So I was like, wow, lost it all.
Yeah. So yeah, let's discuss that. So now we have Tangent wallet, and it provides you backup wallets. So they have a wallet that's the size of a debit card. So the chances of losing your debit card are probably more slim because they just fit in your wallet, right? Like you're always like, where's my wallet at? It's kind of like your card keys. Like you're always on top of that. Like, where's my phone? Where's my wallet? Where are your keys, right?
Yep.
So you can stick it as the size of a debit card in your wallet. And they also have one where it's a ring.
That's cool.
So the ring, that's really cool.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. That's cool.
Right? So let's say you get your girl like, $10,000 diamond ring. You're like, hey, I want this $60 ring with 10,000 of Bitcoin in it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And the good thing is you could back it up. So, let's say you're traveling, you misplace it, you get mugged, whatever. They can take the ring, but you have the seed phrase, the code, the password locked away with all the backup wallets somewhere at home or somewhere in your mom's place, somewhere where you can trust. So they can keep away with the ring and nothing's going to happen. They can't break into it because they don't have that 24-word code that you can put in it that you have somewhere else. And then you have the backup hardware wallet. So that's the good thing about the hardware wallets. They're offline. And there's backup ones versus if I tell you Exodus on your mobile phone, if you lose your seed phrase, then you better fix your phone screen if you're trying to get back in there.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things we get into is more the security realm, and it's not much on the IT side of the house, but I would say it's something that just basic physical security, making sure that you have your, like you said, your wallet keys and phone together. But if you do happen to lose it, how do you actually get it back, and how often does it take? Because like, say if you lost your ID, I know in the state of Maryland, you can actually take a picture of your driver's license, and if for any reason you get pulled over, the digital driver's license is actually covered. Which gets me to think, if we can do that, then we more than likely going to start having QR codes that can actually have all of our information directly on it. So if we get pulled over, we just show up our code next to our face, they can scan it. I mean, most of our IDs already have a barcode on the back, so why not just upgrade it to the 2.0, I guess you could say, of barcodes, and just get that second layer of information.
Yeah, that's how early we are. So it is heading that direction, state by state, where you can have your ID, your passport on the blockchain, because it can't get hacked. I mean, people are already selling real estate on the blockchain, and that's, someone's biggest life decision at one point. So, right, there's marriage and then there's the home purchase. So yeah, you're thinking in the right direction. That's where everything is heading at. Eventually, elections can be like that.
Oh, they'll definitely do it with NFTs, though. I can see that, because then one for one, that's the person. Yeah,
and that happened with the Super Bowl when it was out here in LA. They provided an NFT of the Super Bowl, not the actual tickets, I don't think, but eventually your tickets too, and they'll be helpful, because I remember when I was at the Copa America final in New Jersey. Yeah, one of my tickets was stolen. And that was probably the biggest soccer event in modern day history in the US at that time. So if there was like blockchain technology that would prevent that. That would be like, hey, no, it's proof that it's me. Like, there's only one. Like, you can't change that or hack that the way you could do with other documents now.
Yeah. Man. All right. Yeah, we might have to have just a whole nother episode just doing deep dives into the crypto space.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but getting back to that just personal finance, we're gonna just kind of slide over to the third segment, which is mostly about you. So, like, what skills or habits that you feel is going to take you to the next level?
I don't even know I can put this under a skill or a habit category, but I would say one thing about myself is mental stamina. Mental stamina. The world is going crazy, and I'm not going to be distracted. I could be tired. I mean, even at one point, you thought I was like a full-time content creator.
I did.
And then there's other people that thought there was three of me, like 3 people working on Stay Winning podcast. So I would say that it would be the one thing that would, I forgot what the question was, make me successful, maybe get ahead.
Oh, like whatever skills or habits to take you to the next level.
Yeah, so I would say that that mental stamina is what's going to take me to the next level. And for anyone listening, if you're thinking about starting something, go ahead and start it. And what's going to take you to that next level is being, I mean, there's different levels to this.
Yeah.
But what's going to take you to that next level, it's consistency. Consistency is more rare than loyalty nowadays. And your reaction to that was like, you're like, yeah. So, but yeah, personally for me, that if I could say one thing, it would be that. But I do want to add a second thing to the, and it's because I posted about it on social media. And what's unique to me is I would say my past experiences, my childhood is what's going to take me to, like, all that experience is going to keep taking me to that next level. So for example, a lot of people are afraid to speak in public or communicate. And communication is not really a skill that they teach in school, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So just one example of how my childhood experiences have shaped me to keep taking me higher and higher and higher. In the early 90s, right, there was no smartphones. And you had to literally stop at the store and get a map or ask for directions. So every time my family and I would go out, well, this is when my parents were still together. They didn't speak the language, so I had to get out of the car and go ask for directions. Right. Did that suck? Yes, it really, really sucked. But looking back now, that really boosted my confidence. Like, hey, I can spark up a conversation with anyone. I'm not afraid to ask for help. A lot of people just don't even do anything or stay in the same situation because they're afraid to ask for help or afraid to be seen starting from the bottom. Yeah. So that's one example I could think of where that unique experience has given me that ability where, okay, now I'm not afraid to go talk to someone, I'm afraid to approach someone. Now I'm savvy with directions. Like, I don't even need a map or a smartphone to get around Orange County anywhere, you know? So I would say that would be another thing that's going to keep taking me to those next levels. And that's just one little example of it. So it's the childhood experience I had, even the trauma that's included, and the mental stamina that has come from that. What about you?
I mean, for me, to the next level, it's not just taking things on head on. I'm good at that. I can start anything. I know I need to build a habit of finishing. And I know I'm not a good follow through person. That's why I try to outsource a lot of things. And if you notice, some of my posts will be one post, I do all the things that I can possibly think of to do with somebody's video. Then the other ones, I'm I post out a couple bit. And then life happens, you know what I'm saying? I just can't do it all. So that's one of the things I feel as though I need to focus on to get me to the next level, is just starting and finishing. So some people like the term soup to nuts. I never understood that term. Apparently,
that's the first time I heard it.
Oh, really? Yeah. So apparently, it's a it's a cultural thing. I didn't hear about it until several years ago. So I was like, it's not in my culture.
What's the saying again?
From soup to nuts.
Okay.
Yeah, right, so it's from beginning to end. So it's I guess it's the way the place setting is set up. So when you sit down to eat, the first thing you start off is the soup, and then you have your appetizer, then your main dish, and then you'll have dessert, and then the nuts is supposed to be your ending of the meal. And that's where that phrase comes from. Actually, when I first heard it in a meeting, because I was at a meeting at work, and older kept saying soup to nuts, and I was like, I actually had to pause the meeting. I was like, what do you mean by soup to nuts? Because he was trying to motivate people, right? And I was like, are you holding up some soup to somebody's nuts? And everybody just bust out laughing. I was like, but I'm serious. He was like, well, that is one way to motivate people. You really mean from beginning to end. I was like, okay, now I get it. So
that's an easy way to not lose sight of that message, of that motivation. Oh man, I ain't gonna mess me up for lunch today.
Every time I see a bowl of soup, right?
First time I hear about it, people. So I like learning new things. So thank you, Anthony.
Hey, that's what I'm here for. Yeah,
That's
but
great,
I like and that's the reason why I do this shows, because I learn a lot from everybody, and I like to learn new things, and if I can, that's what I do. Some people say from birth to death or something like that, like of a project, like when they talking about project management and stuff like that. So from birth to death, obviously getting rid of the project, and that's easy. You know what I'm saying? We that's a universal beginning to end, not synchronized.
Yeah.
It's a whole nother thing.
Oh man.
So is there anything you want to leave the audience before we dive into the final 4 questions?
The final 4 questions?
Yeah, do you have do you have anything you want to leave the audience with before we dive into it?
Yeah, subscribe to Anthony's channel.
Thank you.
Definitely want to leave you guys with that. I think we discussed some things. I mean, I know we can talk all day about
we could
every single topic, so we might have to break this into like 12 different episodes. You come out of my podcast too, and we do like series 2. There's just so much to talk about. But I think even me, we could probably on a future date sit down and talk about more about the cultural things and how that impacts our view on money. So yeah, just subscribe to Anthony. That's what I want to leave you guys with.
I appreciate you, Hugo. All right, you ready for the final 4?
All right, let's go.
All right. Number 1, what does wealth mean to you?
What does wealth mean to me? Being able to do what I want, when I want, with whoever I want.
Sounds like a musical, like an album.
Yeah, that's what wealth means to me. Like, I don't have to pull up my bank account to see if I could proceed with X amount. Like there's times where it's like, oh, do you want to upgrade your steak or something? And I'm like, wait, hold up. Did my mortgage payment come out first, before I upgrade to like the 12?
Right. I got enough for potatoes. Like.
Exactly. Can I get the loaded potatoes or just the regular potatoes that comes with the steak?
Right.
Yeah, so, silly things like that, like not having to wait for Tuesday specials to get tacos, right?
I got you.
Just control of everything, just options. Wealth is just having so many assets that give you so many resources, that give you so many options, where you control everything around you. That's real wealth for sure. Again, it's not putting a number on it. It's going back to the beginning of the episode, which is more of a lifestyle. But that's what wealth means to me. I'm curious to know how you would define it.
For me, wealth, because I look at wealth as an abundance of everything. So wealth is more than just finances for me. Wealth is in knowledge and being able to give that knowledge away. I look at wealth as something that you can give. If you're not able to give it away, then you're not wealthy in it. Like if you're full of love, people who are lovely, you can just be around that energy. That's wealth and love in that space. You ever see there's philanthropists that are out there that love to give their money away. You don't have to ask them twice. They're like, hey, here you go. No worries. Enjoy yourself. And then walk away. You don't need to know their name or nothing. They just, it's all right. And when it comes to like knowledge, like for me, I learned so much from everybody else that I like to give that out. And that's one of the things that I'm wealth in knowledge and wealth in connections and wealth in meeting new people. That's what I feel is wealth to me.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm glad you said that. That way the audience can get a perspective more about the money side and more about the things that money cannot buy. So thank you for sharing that. That was beautiful.
Number 2, what was your worst money mistake?
My worst money mistake. Oh man, this one sucks. So I live in Orange County, California, and a lot of times it's always in the top 10 most expensive counties in the nation. Where whatever year you pick, it's most likely going to, you could pick 95, you could pick 2005. Like, most likely it's always going to be in the top 10 most expensive counties in the nation. So when I bought my first property at 24, statistically, I was literally in the 1%. And I would say that I stopped for a moment. I paused. I didn't keep building on that. So I could have refinanced earlier and bought more property at that time. So I would say one of those mistakes was I waited too long to refinance. And then when I did, I used the money just to like party it out. And I'm happy to, I don't know, happy to say that it's a thing, but for anyone that follows me, it's like, learn from that. Just because I got my first property doesn't mean I was at the top yet. That was my mistake, thinking, even though I was statistically at the top,
right?
Whether you want to think about single males, whether you want to think about millennials at that time, whether you want to think about Hispanics at the time, whatever statistic it was, I literally was in the 1%. And that was my mistake, thinking that I was already at the top. But I definitely was not. And that would probably be one of the biggest mistakes. It's like, wow, I could have had at least two additional properties that are cash flowing me right now. So I hope people can learn from my mistake and not commit that mistake. One property does not mean you're at the top, even though it could be really, really hard to obtain. And I think the other thing that's related to that is the circle of people I was around with. So if I had elevated my circle at that same time, then I probably wouldn't have felt that I was at the top. I would have felt like, oh, there's still, like we were talking about earlier in the episode, there's still levels to this. Like there's still, there's people with 2 or 3 or 4 houses. So that would be, if someone else is going to walk away with something from this message is, who you surround yourself with is very important. Your network really is your net worth. And I would say a lot of times it is hard coming from my community to find a good circle. I went to a school district where 8 out of 10 male students did not graduate high school. And that was due either to murder, suicide, being locked up, being deported, dropping out of high school, moving away. So for a long time, I was, as I elevated my income, my job, my lifestyle, I didn't elevate my circle. And I think those two are related in that sense. So I would say that's the biggest, or a 2-part answer of what would be my biggest financial mistake. So I could have probably had 2 additional properties right now, probably getting another deposit right now from collecting rent.
Right.
Yeah, I would say that's it.
Yeah, because
you want to share yours?
Sure, I'll share. So I have several money mistakes, but I think of one of the times that I kind of wish I had done more, which was to educate myself about finances sooner. Because it wasn't until I was near the end of my undergrad, I started looking at finances. If I had actually because I was getting student loans, so I'm still paying on them things. It's ridiculous. But it's just if I had took advantage of the student loan process back in the day, because at the time I think it was only 3% for the student loan payment, but I wasn't paying anything because you're going to school. I could have actually owned a couple properties that were near campus. And back then I heard that they were just giving away houses if you could breathe. And since then, this was before 2008. Yeah. So I was actually around that time frame when I was graduating. But before, if they were just giving away houses, I could have easily gotten a house, threw a couple people in there, a couple roommates or whatever, just near campus, and rented that bad boy out, and not realizing hey, I'm not at the top of my income right now. I'm at the beginning. And I did not know, again, like you said, your circle actually impacts your environment and your finances. It's because people in my circle, we were partying. Hey, when we going down to DC? What party we going to? I was everywhere. So it's just one of those things that, I just kind of wish. It's the wish you coulda, shoulda type deals. But I think my biggest money mistake was actually not taking full advantage of my student loans when I had them.
Cool. Wow, that is a huge one for sure. Because I remember thinking about that too. If you had a heartbeat, you can get a loan, and you were already in the adult stage at that point.
Right.
And I remember they wouldn't count your student loans against your debt to income ratio back then.
They didn't.
So you would say, oh, I'm not making any payments right now. They're like, oh, that's fine. It's not impacting. Now it does. Even if you're not making payments now, they still, okay, 10% of that is what they will calculate now. And if you're trying to qualify for a mortgage. Yeah, that one's huge. That was definitely huge.
Yeah. And that's the reason why I'm like, yo, I could have bought up like half of Baltimore with all that money I was getting.
Oh, in Baltimore. Yeah, that would have.
Yeah.
That would have. Yeah, north of DC, that would have gone really far.
Yeah.
For sure. Oh, man. I hope people learn from us, Anthony, so they don't go ahead and make those mistakes, whether it's student loans, whether it's how to go about capital. And the other mistake I'm seeing is a lot of people. See, so you're in the older millennial. I guess I'm in like the middle.
Yep.
Right. So I see a lot of both. Right. Like you came into adulthood like during the worst economy in adult life.
But I was ignorant though. I didn't even know that was the worst. I'm up here trying to survive, go back and forth to work. I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
I was paying attention.
So that's why we do what we do. We want people to be aware. A lot of it does come to just having that financial literacy knowledge. I mean, I talk about that being the real epidemic in the US is the lack of financial literacy. Just the example I used in the beginning of the conversation about student loans. If you look at the divorce rate in America, one of the top reasons for divorce is money problems. A lot of money problems happen because of lack of financial literacy. So now, in everyone around me, it's like getting married, right? Like in their 30s, it's like, you're getting married, it's like, man, you're getting married, but they have like $100,000 in student loan, and you're trying to buy a house together, but now you can't. It's just, I hope people learn from us, Anthony, and I appreciate you being open and transparent. And I think that's what I like about what you want to do with your audience, and what I try to do with mine is being transparent. It's not easy. It's putting ourselves out there and saying, hey, we're looking in the mirror. Don't make this mistake. So if people walk away for something, I hope they're learning from our mistakes. But man, you're taking it back to, exactly. You're taking it back to good mortgage days and bad mortgage days. Because I remember I was an assistant loan officer. Because I wasn't 18 yet, so I couldn't work full time. And there was no such thing as like part-time loan officers or whatever. And I remember these people just making so much money because everyone was getting a loan. Like there's literally a quote that says, if you had a heartbeat, you got a loan.
That's it.
And that's what you're saying, right? Like, oh man, I could have. You're like, give me the loans.
Right. They give you all of it. Give me finance later.
Exactly.
Shoot.
So, and I was just seeing like how much. So, in California, you're talking about houses. At that point, you're talking about like $600,000-$800,000 loans, and the commission on that, you're talking about like $30,000 per deal. I mean, there's these people that are like, I'm like, wow, all you need is one a month, and people are doing like 12 a month. And then by the time I turned 18, that subprime market didn't even exist anymore, and I was like, where my money at? I was waiting to turn 18 so I could do this for a living. So there was two ends to it. Yeah, it was like people were the ones that were giving loan were making good money, and then everyone was getting a loan. So that's another thing. Yeah, that I could see a lot of people be like, you could be on the good end of it or the bad end of it. So I hope people learn from our mistakes, Anthony.
Definitely. That's the reason why I keep this question in the final four, because we all make mistakes. It's just how do we overcome them? Because obviously we overcame them because we're here today. So, it's all right. It's not the end of the world.
No, our world did not end. We're still building. We're still trying to get our papers. So keep pushing forward.
All right. Number 3, what is your favorite financial or non-financial book?
Wow. That was a tough one. Just to be honest and transparent, I don't have one.
Not one
I
book?
don't. I don't have one.
Okay.
I think the last book I actually read, Anthony, from
Mm-hmm.
beginning to end, was Where the Red Fern Grows in seventh grade
Mm. You
because it
take
was
it
a
back.
school assignment. Yeah. Because it was a school assignment, and that goes back to the whole student loan thing. Like most of my college classes, I went without a textbook
Wow.
because I was like, I'm not gonna go spend money on that. I'd rather go spend money on this or invest money on this. The only time I got a textbook in college was when a pretty girl was like, "Hey, you want to study together?" And I was like, "Sure."
Sure. How much is book?
And that's when I go to you know, and that's when I would go get the book sometimes. But I'm glad you bring this up because in other shows and podcasts I've been on, they've asked me like, what books do I recommend? What book changed my life? And a part of me sometimes felt guilty not being able to direct my audience to something that influenced me positively. And a lot of times I share knowledge, what you called wealth, and I agree with that. And people question me, "Oh, have you read this book?" Because the theme comes from certain books. I'm hitting themes from books that I didn't even know because I haven't read them. So I feel bad that I can't direct my audience to a book that changed me or a book that I recommend. Hey, check this one out, because I don't have one. I do read a lot of articles though, but
Okay.
not books from A through Z. So this is me being transparent with everyone. So sometimes I wish I had a book to recommend, but I'm also cool with saying I don't have a book to recommend.
That's cool. Because I've been reading a lot of audiobooks, and
Oh, okay.
some of these physical books that I have here, I already read them on like a audible version of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the library card, I mean, if you don't want to have physical books and take up inventory in your space, just go down and use your library card. If you don't have a library card, they're free. Just go to the library, get a card, and download the app Libby, Libby. And once you register your library card to it, you have access to audiobooks, Kindle books. You can actually go back to the actual library and actually get books on tape if you want it, on DVD.
Yeah.
So the resources are there, and it's actually hooked up to your Kindle. So if you have a Kindle, either the digital version on your laptop or on your phone, you can actually download it directly from the library. And they quick to snatch it up too, so there's no late fee. They'll ask you to borrow it again. Because the book I was reading,
Okay.
air quotes here, it's You Own You by Eric Thomas. So at the time of this recording, the library snatched it up. It was like, well, 10 people are waiting in line. You got to get back in line now. I was like,
for an audiobook?
For an audiobook. Because like I said, it's free. It's because the cool thing I like about the app though, that the libraries have, it's like you don't have to, like, Amazon, like some people have Amazon and you can just get, I think it's like free one audiobook with it or something like that per month. But it's like, well, why pay when you're already paying the taxes? Take advantage of the resources that your taxes pay for, like the library.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. I didn't know it was that in debt and that resourceful. But I'm glad you brought up that last point. We do pay taxes on it. Yeah. So if you're listening, anyone, at least get a library card in your local library, because they count that but when it comes to budgeting, whether it's city budgeting, county budgeting, or state budgeting. And if they see that people are using those resources, they can allocate more money to that. So if you want to pay it forward somehow, Anthony's going really in debt, but you could at least get a library card. That way the budget is just, if you're already paying taxes, you at least be like, okay, I at least kind of know where my money's going.
And I'm glad. And plus, if there's books that aren't in your library district, you can actually go to a neighboring county and actually get a book. Get a library card, temporary library card for like, I think like a month or something like that. Get your audiobook or your Kindle book or whatever, read the book, and then send it back to them digitally. And then that's it. Like, you don't even have to leave your house to do all of this.
Wow. See, then we could take it back to the blockchain and how you can buy books on blockchain now and then pay them forward. But what was the book called again? The one you were mentioning?
Oh, You Own You by Eric Thomas.
And tell me a little bit about that. Some highlights so far.
So, because I only got it to like chapter 6 before they stretched it back for me.
That's more than me, man.
Right. Well, yeah, that's true. The beauty I like about that book is that, you know, he talks about his story doesn't change. And this is one of the reasons how I do my research is I try to research people. Like when I say I was trying to research you, I try to look at other things you already talked about and try to come up with questions that people haven't asked you yet. But with Eric Thomas' message is that, you know, he just talks about his childhood, how he thought he was a big man or whatever at the age of 12. He found out that his father isn't really his father. It was that somebody had stepped in as a stepfather to kind of help take care of his mom and everything like that. And that he was actually, you know, he was like, you know, he was so upset with his mom. He didn't want to be in the house. So he left at the age of 12, being homeless, eating out of trash cans, stealing from stores, just trying to, you know, make ends meet for himself and using the payphone to call people. So this was like early, I think he had like early 90s. Early or late 80s that he's doing all of this. And so he's just getting jobs here and there, back and forth. And then until he finally found his calling in the church, and then just kind of using the church community really helped him out. This goes back to what you were saying earlier, is that the people you surround yourself with. He was saying that the people he was hanging around with were like, oh, they really liked his attire from the clothes that he was stealing. And then he would actually sell them some of the stuff that he was stealing just to kind of make a profit. But they didn't know that he was actually homeless because he was just like working at other places that were close to 24 hours. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
it's one of those heartfelt stories, but also it's kind of motivating you to say, you know what, you can't blame society. Like he kept trying to blame his mom. He wanted to blame his father for not being there, not wanting him. He just thanks his mom for actually not giving an abortion to keep him. And he really that's the reason why his last name is Thomas, even though he wasn't born Thomas, is that he kept the name because he was like, his stepfather stepped up and he's proud that he stepped up. So that's the reason why he's keeping the name. And so now he went on and he said he took him like 12 years to get his undergrad. And then he got his master's and PhD. So now he's Dr. Eric Thomas. So, you know, it's just one of those, and I'm only in chapter 6. So when I get the book back, finish up the story. But it's very motivating to see his timeline and how he got into public speaking, like what he was doing in that process. Because I'm actually in the process of trying to get into the public speaking realm. So that's the reason why I picked up this book. So, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. That's a great story of perseverance right there. Yeah. Hopefully I can somewhere down the line do some public speaking as well. Yeah. I think you have unique stories to share. I have unique stories to share people can learn from, just like that book. So that's really cool, man. Now you got me thinking more about books. Yeah.
Well, I think it was a saying that if you want to hide all the secrets of the world, put them in a book. Because not too many people read it.
Yeah. Wow.
So much.
I haven't heard that, man. You're teaching me so much today.
I was gonna be letting
soup to nuts and then this. Oh man. Yeah, I'm gonna have to bring you on to Stay Winning podcast as well.
Yeah, let's make it happen. All right. The number 4. What is your favorite dish to make?
My favorite dish to make. Oh man, Korean barbecue tacos.
Korean barbecue tacos.
That's my favorite. Korean barbecue.
like pork, and then you got.
Yeah, so you can have. I don't even know. Short rib is probably the best meat to do them with. You want to put the tortilla in rice vinegar when you're heating it up. That changes the taste of the tortilla. I usually use sour cream and sriracha. Spread on the tortilla before I put the meat on there, and then you could put kimchi on top of the short rib, Let's see. And I personally put a little bit of fish cakes on there as well.
Fish cakes, interesting.
Yeah. Just to give it a little bit of different texture. Yeah, I'll say that's my favorite dish to make.
Sounds good. It's nice and simple.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a huge foodie. So somewhere down the line, again, the definition of wealth, I would just be like, hey, I feel like just going to culinary school today just because I like food.
There you go.
You know? So if that's in the plans for me later on, you know, that'll be cool. There's one thing I did now that I just remembered. When you were talking about social media and being 30 and just picking up your phone, and you know, you and me are just putting out content there as much as we can. How was I going with this?
It happens to the best of us.
I had a point. Yeah, so I wanted to bring that back up because all you need now to make money is your phone. And the one thing I found out in my YouTube journey, and I actually wanted to ask you this, is I found out that people would rather be, this is where I was going, I remember now. They'd rather be entertained than educated. And for example, we take YouTube and the monetization requirements. It's a very steep mountain to climb. Very, very steep.
Yeah.
And this is where the whole mental stamina came in and consistency, because I'm like, if I just went to Disneyland and made like a video about food in the park at Disneyland, I probably would have been monetized already. You know what I mean? Like,
easy.
It's a brand that everyone knows. It's a place everyone wants to go. Who doesn't want to look at, you know, Mickey Mouse ear cookies or whatever? But yeah, that's the point I wanted to bring up. That was earlier that I just remembered. It was when you said if you're at least 30 and you have a phone. I would say that's one thing from YouTube that YouTube has taught me is people would rather be, and not to shoot anyone down, people could do whatever they want with their time, is entertained versus educated. So, all for anyone listening, I hope we also entertained you today. That's one thing I want to implement on my podcast now that I'm adding video to it is, okay, we're educating people for sure, but now I got to think about it from an entertainment perspective. But yeah, when you said those 30-year-olds in the phone, that's the thing I remember.
All right, the last question of the show, which is where could people find out more about you?
Oh, probably X is the best way to find out more about me. That's where I share things first. So I'm working on a house flip or something. X is always the first place I share something. So if people want to learn more about me, X is probably where I'm more transparent.
And they can follow you at...
Oh yeah, you can follow me. See, I usually put my name as my handle. This time I didn't. But yeah, you can find me at Stay Winning Pod on Instagram, YouTube, and X. So those are my 3 main platforms that I focus on. But X is probably a good starting point for people to get to know me.
Awesome. All right, and because we are keeping in mind for some of the people that listen on the audio, we want to make sure that you get your followers there too.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. So thank you so much for staying with us throughout this whole journey. We've talked a lot about personal finance, personal growth, things and resources that could help you go to that next level, whether it's in crypto, whether it's in personal, looking at your environment, looking at the people you hang around with. This information is invaluable, and it's actually definitely repeatable amongst all the books that you listen to. If you read a lot of self-help books and you listen to this show, this is not new information, but this is actually relayed to you in a different way that it can actually resonate with you and your community. So hopefully you got something out of this that will take you to that next level. And thank you again, Hugo, for coming by.
Anthony, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure. Proud of you. Keep up the good work.
Thanks, sir. All right, everybody. I'm out. Peace.